The courtroom went silent when my son walked past me without even looking at my face. He adjusted his expensive suit, shook hands with powerful people, and sat beside the lawyers who were fighting against me. Then he finally turned around, smiled coldly, and said, "Dad, you should have thought about your choices before coming here." I couldn't believe those words were coming from the same boy I carried on my shoulders when he was too small to walk. 3 weeks earlier, I was lying in a hospital bed, staring at a paper that had changed my life. The doctor had explained it carefully, but I already knew what it meant. I needed cancer surgery quickly, and the cost was more than I could ever afford. The number on the estimate kept running through my mind. 3,200. For some people, it was just money. For me, it was the difference between seeing another sunrise and leaving my family behind. I had spent my whole life working as a mechanic. My hands were rough, my back was tired, but I never complained. I worked extra hours so my children could have better opportunities than I did. I skipped vacations, old clothes stayed in my closet for years, and every extra dollar went toward my family's future. Especially my son, Daniel. He was the child who once held my hand and promised, "Dad, when I become successful, I'll take care of you." I believed him. That morning, with shaking hands, I called him. The phone rang several times before he answered. "Dad, I'm busy. Is everything okay?" I closed my eyes and tried to control my voice. "Daniel, I need your help." There was a short silence. "I need surgery. The doctor said I don't have much time to wait. I only need $3,200. Another silence followed, but this one felt different. Then I heard him sigh. "Dad, you don't understand how things work now." My heart sank. "What do you mean?" He laughed softly. "Do you know how much pressure I have? We just closed a $12 million deal. I have employees, investments, responsibilities. I can't just throw money at every problem." I couldn't speak. Every word felt heavier than the last. "Daniel, I'm not asking you to buy me a house. I'm asking you to help me survive." His voice became colder. "You always depended on me emotionally. Maybe you should have planned better." I looked at the hospital ceiling, trying not to cry. The boy I protected my whole life was now telling me that my life was a burden. Then he said the sentence that broke something inside me. "Dad, there's no money for you." The call ended. I sat there holding the phone, listening to the empty sound after he disconnected. That was the moment I realized something painful. Sometimes the person you expect to save you is the person who hurts you the most. For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone. I didn't tell anyone how badly his words affected me. I just stared at the surgery papers and wondered if I had failed as a father. But the next morning, while I was preparing to give up, someone knocked on my hospital door. I expected a nurse. Instead, my daughter Emma walked in. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying the whole drive. She placed an envelope on my bed and whispered, "Dad, why didn't you tell me?" I looked at the envelope. Inside was $2,000. My voice trembled. Where did you get this?" She sat beside me and held my hand. "I sold my car." I froze. "You did what?" She smiled through tears. "It was just a car, Dad. You're my father." At that moment, I understood something I had forgotten. Love is not measured by how much someone has. It is measured by what they are willing to sacrifice. But what I didn't know was that Emma had discovered something about Daniel before she came to the hospital. Something that would change everything. Because the reason my son refused to help me wasn't just about money. There was a secret behind his cold words. And when I found out what he had done, I realized my fight was no longer just about saving my life. It was about exposing the person who tried to destroy it. The next morning, Emma sat beside my hospital bed with her laptop open. She looked nervous, like she was carrying a secret too heavy for one person. "Dad, there's something you need to know about Daniel." I looked at her face and immediately knew this was not going to be easy. "What happened?" She took a deep breath. "I didn't just find out that he refused to help you. I found out why." She turned the laptop toward me. On the screen were documents, bank records, and messages between Daniel and his business partner. I stared at the names. My hands started shaking. Daniel had not just become distant. He had been hiding something for years. After my wife passed away, I sold the small house we lived in because Daniel told me he needed help starting his company. He promised he would return the money and make sure I was taken care of when he became successful. I believed my son. But the documents Emma found showed the truth. Daniel had transferred the money into his own business account and listed it as a personal investment from a family source. He had built his entire empire partly with the money I sacrificed for him. And now, when I needed him the most, he acted like I was a stranger. Emma looked at me with tears in her eyes. He didn't forget what you did for him. Dad, he just thinks he's too powerful to care. For days, I struggled with what to do. Part of me wanted to forgive him because he was still my son. But another part of me knew that if I stayed silent, he would keep hurting people who trusted him. Emma helped me find an old friend who worked in legal investigations. Together, we collected every piece of evidence. The bank records, the messages, the false reports Daniel had created to hide his actions. But the biggest surprise came when we discovered one more thing. Daniel had been planning to remove my name from a family property that my wife and I had left behind. He wanted to make it look like I had willingly signed everything over to him. But there was one problem. He didn't know I had saved the original documents years ago, the same documents he thought were gone forever. The truth was still alive. A month later, Daniel and I sat across from each other in court. He looked confident. He thought his money, his lawyers, and his reputation would protect him. That was when he smiled at me and said, "Dad, you really think you can beat me?" I looked at him calmly. "No, Daniel. I don't need to beat you. I just need the truth to speak." When the evidence was presented, the room changed. The same people who once praised Daniel started whispering. His business partners looked shocked. The judge reviewed the documents, the financial records, and the proof of deception. Daniel's carefully built image started falling apart. The man who told me nobody could fight him suddenly had no words. The court ruled in my favor. My property was protected. The money he took was ordered to be returned, and the reputation he spent years building was damaged by the truth he tried to hide. But the biggest victory was not seeing Daniel lose. It was realizing I no longer needed his approval. After my surgery, I spent months recovering. Emma stayed beside me through every difficult day. She never complained, never made me feel like a burden. One evening, as we sat outside watching the sunset, she asked me quietly, "Dad, do you regret helping Daniel all those years?" I smiled. "No." She looked surprised. "After everything he did?" I nodded. "Because his actions showed who he became, but my love showed who I was." Years later, Daniel tried to apologize. He came to my door with tears in his eyes. "I was wrong, Dad." I looked at him for a long moment. I wanted to hate him. I wanted him to feel the same pain I felt. But I had learned something important. Revenge was never about destroying someone. It was about refusing to let them destroy you. "I forgive you," I said. "But forgiveness doesn't mean I forget." He lowered his head. And for the first time, he understood that losing my trust was something money could never buy back. I survived cancer. I rebuilt my life. And I learned the hardest lesson a father can learn. Sometimes the child you sacrifice everything for may walk away. But the person who truly loves you will stand beside you when you have nothing left. The day my son broke, my heart was painful. But the day my daughter saved me showed me something even more powerful. Family is not always the person who shares your blood. Sometimes it is the person who refuses to let you fight alone.